So there's some connections here with DC and Pittsburgh.
Wow. So in terms of like, there seems to be like a hotbed of activity that happens, creativity in the world. You feel Pittsburgh is sort of the center of that, like where like the Renaissance came out of like Europe.
Yeah.
And Italy maybe, right?
Right. Yeah. Western Europe. Yeah, I think that Pittsburgh is going to be seen more and more as a player in the spiritual renaissance of what's happening around the world. I really do. I don't know how it's all going to play out. I just feel that strongly that it's one of the epicenters, I would say, around the globe. So, and who would have thought? You know, because it is a very humble, deep-rooted, very religious city too. A lot of deep religious roots here.
So the variation of different religions. Okay.
Yeah, Jewish, Christian, Islam. I mean, they're all represented here. There's a very big Jewish population. So it's been interesting. I remember when I interviewed Dr. Louis Mamadrona, who's the author of Coyote Medicine and many other books. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a medical doctor and a Cherokee shaman.
Oh, wow.
He does both. And he ran the Complementary Medicine Center at UPMC, which is the biggest hospital group here in the city when it first opened. And I remember him saying how in awe he was that he would hold these sweat lodges and they were singing some of the Jewish songs in the sweat lodge. And he was taught how to pray the Our Father. And he had never heard that prayer before, and so he thought that was equally amazing. It was just really cool how
So everybody's just coming together and awareness.
Yeah.
What about the history of the Native Americans?
Well, again, not an expert on that, but there's a huge lineage, a huge history around the Revolutionary War period and all the way up to the present day, really, of George Washington coming through here and meeting the natives, working with the natives. There's a wonderful painter by the name of Robert Griffing, Griffing, Robert Griffing, an amazing historian, because he's recreated the interaction with the military troops and the natives. And actually where we're sitting now, he has several paintings where he's looking down on Fort Pitt, and he has recreated every detail, researched every single detail about the topography and clothing and what they were actually doing and when. It's amazing. You can actually look at his artwork and kind of relive the experience of what happened here in this portion of the Northeast.
It's interesting because I find that just through like education, sometimes you'll read history books and you kind of question the truthfulness of it's written, and obviously people have different perspectives on how they're writing, but I just had a sense that you probably get more of an accurate picture from painting, maybe.
And you feel it.
Yes.
You look at the painting and you feel behind the scenes what must have been happening. The history book's going to tell you about the humanity, about what's going on. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I think that as you become more aware, you start to look at what we call the content, not the content of life, which is like, things that are informed, but the context or the essence of things. And that pretty much captures because history books may be manipulated over the years, but most of the artwork still contains the actual essence of the time. So not only do you see the content of the painting and the pictures of it, but you actually can feel the energy behind it.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Especially with an artist like Robert Griffing, whose intention is to authenticate the experience of what happened there. I mean, painstaking researching details to make sure that they're accurate. And I think that 30th intent really is a you stated in the book.
You're quite an expert on the city of Pittsburgh.
Not
yeah.
really, no.
But
I'm just a
it's in your
yinzer,
heart.
as they call it here.
Yeah. Were you actually raised here?
I was.
Okay.
I was born in Pittsburgh, Fearful. I was 18 or 19. So steeped in the culture of the sports culture of the 70s when the Steelers won all the Super Bowls and the Pittsburgh Pirates were winning pennants and the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's very deeply rooted in that as well, and
Yes.
in the culture of sports, but it's very friendly. And if you go anywhere in the country, you can find Steelers fans because everybody loves the Steelers because of the way it starts with the Rudy organization, the way that they run their organization, with a lot of integrity and no BS. They run it with a lot of integrity, and they have high standards for their players. We're seeing that now with what's happening with Ben Roethlisberger.
Oh, right.
Showing up to his first practice since his little debacle. So, accountability. Yeah, and being a role model for that which you're part of a group, part of a team, to live that in every portion of your life. Being in your integrity. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Because as we move forward in this evolution, it's a lot of people talk about 2012 and what's going to happen, and I think the shift, part of the shift that we refer to is just that. It's either you're in your integrity and you're going towards the light, so to speak, or you're not in your integrity, and that's when the consequences that aren't so pleasant are going to show up in your life. At least
So that's
what
where you think 2012 is all about, right? A lot of people are getting scared, even considering like it's the end of the world, and I sort of laugh about it because the same thing happened in Y2K. So, so what do you think is happening?
I think it is going to be the end of the world as we know it, and thank God, because we can do better, right?
Right.
There's so many things that we can do better in terms of caretaking the planet, in terms of caretaking each other, in terms of how we spend our time, our precious time on Earth. We don't have much time on Earth.
You just made a distinction too, because people associate the world with the planet or the Earth, but it's actually the world as you perceive it.
Yeah.
That's the end
the
of
context.
the world. Yeah. Right.
The planet Earth is the content, and the soul essence of why we're here is the context, the bigger picture of it. That's the nothing matters part that I talk about in my book.
Yeah.
And more people are glimpsing that. I would say 10 or 20 years ago, most people would nod their head and say, "You're crazy, what are you talking about?" But I think, the veil is thinning, as they say, and more people are getting glimpses of this other greater reality, that there's going to be a tipping point. That's what I'm hoping happens in 2012, that the tipping point shifts, as the word is used, into a pure, more refined existence for all of us. That it's, we cut the BS, basically.
And also chaos too. I feel like there's an upheaval of energy. So I think a lot of people, as they're growing, things are accelerating. So they're like being thrown in their face the reality of things. Like as before, they could just kind of float along life, but for some reason or another, I think it's happening so quickly, and they're being like presented.
Right.
Which choice are you gonna make here now? Are you gonna be in integrity, or are you gonna still live by the old paradigm?
I've been feeling for decades, really since I was in my 20s, that time is accelerating. And at first I thought it was that old adage that as you get older, the years fly by faster, but no, it's more than that.
Yeah.
It really is more than that.
And I think it's silly because I booked my hotel for Pittsburgh, but a week later, and it's because I have no awareness of time. Yeah, I'm always going with the flow, and so I'm on the computer, and I just, for some reason, I'm just typing the wrong date. So, but in a sense, I